The flame is the soul's breath. The black smoke is the soul's release. Ashes thou wert and art, may thy soul return to the great flame of fire. Latome. Thank you for joining us, and welcome everybody to the very first episode of the Men of Zen podcast, an anime research podcast. My name is Brent.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Aiden.
That is awesome. I'm so excited to have you guys here. We've been building to this for months. If you guys have not guessed what our very first episode is by that intro, we are talking about Fire Force, NN no Shobutai, Blazing Fire Brigade, however you want to say it. I am so excited to do this first episode. Now, I had not... at first, I really did not care for this show a whole lot. Phil encouraged me to check this show out again, and you know what? I'm super glad that I did, and I went back into it. And, oh man, like it really starts to pick up after the first few episodes. It is amazing. Phil, what did you think? You know, you'd seen this before, right?
Yes. I'm going through my second watch of the entire anime. The manga is quite a bit farther. The manga actually just ended recently, but I loved it right off the bat because it was done by the same guy who did another one of my favorite anime, Soul Eater, and just the concept of everyone in the show uses some type of fire power, and it seemed to resonate with me. And yeah, I got hooked on the first episode and binged it in like a week or two.
Nice. Now, you said you hadn't seen it before at all, right? Or is this like another rewatch for you, Aiden?
It is a rewatch for me. I watched it before a while ago. The second one, I kind of binged it last night to refresh on it. But yeah, Phil was actually recommended it to me as well. So I thought it was a unique anime that I've never really seen one with like kind of like fire soldiers or firefighters with that kind of style.
Yeah,
too.
That's the big thing. Like why Brent didn't want to watch it at first, because he was like, it's firefighters.
It is. I mean, at first, it really is like a base level concept for me, where it's just firefighters fighting fire things. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but there is a much deeper story to this. Now let's really get into this about what Fire Force, the Blazing Fire Brigade, really is. A show where firefighters, religious cults, and demons clash over the fate of the world. An event known as the Great Cataclysm, 250 years before the series, had the world literally set on fire by making most of the world uninhabitable, and any survivors looking for safety basically fled to the only remaining area called the Tokyo Empire. The story really picks off with the main character, Shinra Kusakabe, a young man seeking information for a fire in which results in the death of his younger brother and his mother 12 years before he becomes the newest member of Company 8. In Company 8, he finds himself investigating Companies 1 through 7 for corrupt members that may be linked to a series of cases in which humans are spontaneously combusting and being turned into infernals. The other stronger version of those infernals, they also called demons. These demons desire nothing more than to burn everything and everyone around them, while some religious cults kind of see them as like a path to gain enlightenment, or like be closer to God, I guess, because like flames are the most like pure form of light. Right. So these demons, when they're defeated, they're sent off to their final rest with the prayer from the Holy Soul Temple, which is what you heard at the beginning of the episode. They are a religion that's very closely tied to the Tokyo Empire through their current king, Raffles III, who was a descendant of Raffles I, who founded the religion during that time after the Great Cataclysm. Let me see here. I see that that ending bit, we can go back through that prayer really quick. The flame is the soul's breath. The black smoke is the soul's release. Ashes thou wert and art, may thy soul return to the great flame of fire. Latome. Did you guys research at all about like any specifics of like the religious undertones in this movie?
I didn't.
Series, movie, whatever.
I'm actually surprised there's not a movie. But no, I really didn't do a whole lot of research into the religious aspect. You know me, I'm not a religious person, but it's a very strong presence in the show. And it's just, everyone worships the sun, because the sun provides life and, you know, it's sustainable energy for the entire Tokyo Empire with their perpetual energy generator Amaterasu, which has just infinite energy that powers the entire continent. And so they look at fire as like the greatest thing in, you know, the history of the world. And, you know, having a religion based on that makes sense.
Absolutely. So now what's interesting is I did look up or find some interesting information about the word latom. Specifically, latom in Hungarian translates to I see, which is really interesting because fans, this is more of a fan belief here, is that they believe it is more shortened for I see your light, as they are sending this soul off to its final resting place, because light is the most pure form of fire.
Okay.
So it's like sending them back to God by cleansing their soul. And because they are cleansed, they are now pure or born again or released to whatever the good part of their afterlife is. So I want to get into the main character a little bit. Shinra Kusakabe is what is called a third generation pyrokinetic. Now what's interesting about this is that generations don't necessarily mean about lineage. It has to do with the level of control that you have of fire in terms of whether you can I might have this backwards. I believe third generation, is it that they can control fire from around them, but second generation is they can produce fire within, or is that reverse?
They're mixed up there. I think.
Is it?
Yeah. I think
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of the biggest things of research I did for this episode was bringing up the specific generations and the differences between them.
Okay,
now,
yes.
Another big thing about this anime is that the reason the Fire Force exists is because there's a phenomenon happening called spontaneous human combustion, which randomly, at any moment in time, any person can just burst into flames and become an infernal, essentially a fire demon. Not like the demon level infernal, but just essentially it looks like a flaming skeleton. Those are actually the first generation of pyrokinetics. Basically anybody that basically anything that goes through, anyone that goes through spontaneous human combustion but is not able to handle it becomes an infernal. So that is a first generation. A second generation are the people who are adapted to spontaneous human combustion, and instead of becoming an infernal, they acquire the ability to manipulate existing flames. Third generations, they have higher physical capabilities as well as higher durability, along with natural immunity to flames, but they can still be hurt with enough firepower. They cannot create their own flames, but they can manipulate existing flames around them, even ones created by third generations. Now, third generations, like what Shinra is, are people, once again, who adapted to spontaneous human combustion, but can generate their own flames, either from their own body or from an object that they possess. Most third generations join the Fire Force because they are the most common. They cannot manipulate existing fire. So that is one of the big differences. They actually mention in the show that most second generations tend to hide what their abilities are while fighting a third generation, because they don't want people to assume what generation they are, so they can kind of surprise them in the middle of a fight. And finally, while there's not a whole lot of information on this, there is a fourth generation.
Ooh, I hadn't heard that.
While not fully explored, fourth generations are abilities that very few third generations can acquire. The only known way to get a fourth gen ability is to acquire an Adola Burst. And to receive an Adola Grace, which is a direct link from a otherworldly being.
Nice. Now what's awesome is that you talk about the Adola Burst. I did get quite a bit about the Adola Burst, so this is really cool. That the Adola Burst, or as otherwise referred to, it's called the Genesis Flame. This is fire that is supposed to have come from the plane or Adola, and Adola is essentially their version of hell. Not all flame wielders possess the power of the Adola Burst. It's something that can only be obtained by either coming into contact from somebody or something that came from Adola, or other people that have an Adola burst. Also, not everybody experiences coming into contact with Adola the same way. There's some characters that like just have visions and like they have feelings of euphoria when they are like touched by these flames, because it's like it's like a holy religion to these people, where being touched by these flames is like being close to God. But there are 10 characters that have the power of the Adola burst, all of which are third generation. They're also said to be descendants of God, essentially, which is why they're held in such revere. But if there's a fourth generation, that's really interesting. I had not heard that.
Yep, only 3 characters in the show. I did the research. Only actually, I'm sorry, 4. 4 characters in the show received fourth generation abilities. One of them obviously being Shinra, but we won't go further into that because obviously that's going to spoil some things, and we definitely don't want to do that. But it's such a cool concept, and this actually leads really into the origin of Fire Force. The author Atsushi Akubo was actually having a conversation with the Fairy Tail creator Hiro Mashima, and he basically they were talking about, Natsu, the main character of Fairy Tail, and he brought up it'd be really interesting to have a manga where everyone has some ability relating to fire, and he thought that would be a really interesting concept. Jokingly, he said it branches off from his own monomania, which means exaggerated or obsessive enthusiasm for a particular thing. So it started off as a joke, but then he kind of sat there and was like, wait a minute, that actually sounds like a kind of cool idea. Right. And that's essentially where Fire Force, the origin apparently of Fire Force, came from.
Right, especially knowing some of his other works. Like he's definitely is a guy that loves his characters with superpowers. That's always what he's been drawn to, especially with some of the other characters in this world. Like, I love some of these guys. Let me see here. I got a little bit about them. Like some other characters in this world have powers like the ability to control the direction of bullets when they're fired from a gun. Not because of the bullet, but because of the explosion produced in the chamber. They can manipulate that little bit of fire spark that they need to generate their outside source of power so that they can control that. That guy was really cool. There's another character that can produce a blade of raw energy that is almost like a lightsaber. It's just extreme heat.
Yeah, I think it's plasma.
Yes, it's plasma. Another one that I loved comes up a little bit later in the anime, where he has the ability to use smoke and ashes to form other deadly weapons, and he uses that to like obscure your vision. He can use it to negate and block others' fire powers. That guy is ruthless. That guy's name Kurono Yuichiro.
Yeah, he is. Man. He's pretty much the exact opposite of another character in the show, Benimaru Shinmon, that we'll get to later. We'll get to Benimaru later.
I got a little bit about him too. That being said, Phil, do you have anything? Do you guys have anything else that you want to add about like the actual anime itself before we get into a little bit about the writer?
If you don't mind, I have a little bit of facts here. Obviously, the author Atsushi Akubo. Sorry if I pronounced that entirely wrong.
It's Okubo.
Okubo. Perfect.
Okubo, if you want to be like. Yeah, Atsushi Okubo, the writer and illustrator.
The publication and writing began on September 23rd, 2015, and unfortunately ended this year, February 22nd of 2022.
Ooh, yeah.
With the last chapter, which, oh my god, that last chapter. We won't go into spoilers, but oh boy. The genre of this anime and manga would be considered action, supernatural, dark fantasy with a bit of sci-fi with it as well.
Okay.
It also, fun facts here, what Akubo has said. As the manga carried a heavy and dark theme, Akubo thought it'd be fitting to have a main protagonist with a smile that, in Akubo's words, he can't help but make when he wants to be serious, rather than an open and carefree smile that is more common among other main protagonists in other manga. Fire Force has also been nominated twice for the Kodansha Manga Award for Best Shonen for the 41st and the 45th Kodansha Manga Awards. Sadly did not win either of those, but it was nominated.
Absolutely. Now, I know we were talking about characters a little bit earlier. I know I had some favorites. Aiden, what are some of your favorite takeaways from this anime?
I think I have an idea who's his favorite character.
Yeah. Benimaru was actually one of my favorites here. I thought his his ability is pretty unique there. Going back to what Phil said about the generations, he's actually a hybrid that can do both.
Yeah.
Essentially. So that's pretty rare. And I like his attitude too. His overall attitude and the way he does his company. I like the way he does that.
Explain the Seventh Company, because he's the captain of the Seventh Company.
Definitely. So they celebrate the way they do things a little differently than how other companies typically do it. The way they do it, they kind of use it as they see it as a celebration, and they kind of want to go out with the biggest bang kind of thing when they do their thing, instead of just making it religion.
Right.
How the other ones are just praying. They just have a huge celebration, just kind of like to have a party basically with it. And then Benimaru, the way he does not his magic, but his fire abilities are pretty unique too.
Yeah, he's mostly a martial artist with fire powers. And what's unique, like he mentioned, him being a second and third generation means not only can he control fire around him, he can produce his own fire, which Benimaru is also considered the strongest fighter in the entire Fire Force. And that's saying something, because there are some strong people in the Fire Force, and he's like considerably younger than a lot of people. But the dude is pretty powerful. He's one of
animal.
Oh, he's one of two. Well, actually, one of three people by the end of season 2 that is known to have destroyed a demon class Infernal, which on his own. Because the only other time that a demon Infernal was made, it took hundreds of Fire Force soldiers to working together to get enough power to destroy him, because they're incredibly durable, but he did it by himself.
Yeah, I did have him listed as one of my, I at least put down my top 3 with Kurono Yuichiro, which we know is the guy that can control smoke and make weapons like kunai and swords. The other scary thing, he can use smoke to invade another person's body. He forces it into them, and you can burn them from the inside out by increasing the temperature. But Shinmon Benimaru, like you said, a second and third generation pyrokinetic. I loved. I mean, he has one of the best fights. His ability, the Crimson Moon Sun Wheel attack is awesome. It is iconic to the show. If you've already seen this show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a blast so powerful that once it dissipates, it leaves a crimson colored moon basically from where the blast was hanging in the sky for a period of time. It's just insane. The other guy that I had, Leonard Burns, a hand-to-hand combat specialist with an ability called Voltage Nova. He just basically internalizes the flames within his body, and all he does is he uses it to enhance his physical strength. He's not super flashy necessarily, but he is damn strong. He is scary.
He literally erupts into a giant ball of fire that he just straight up can knock a person out.
Man.
He is intimidating. When Shinra tries to show off, he's gotten stronger against the captain of the first, and that's who Burns is. He commands the first squad, as well as he's affiliated with the Holy Soul Temple. He doesn't get very far. Shinra's got a lot of power, but Burns got more.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of those anime where you see the lead protagonist constantly try to test his mettle with other characters that he knows are probably out of his league, but he needs to prove himself for one reason or another. Whether it's, in this case, it's to get information regarding the fire that his brother and his mother were killed in, and it's because there are other people within these companies long before Shinra joined Company 8 that were present during that time, maybe even at that fire. So he's trying to get into the Fire Force Company to investigate for himself within. Just really interesting. I really liked that plot idea.
Definitely. And there's another character too that I do like. I like their captain of Company 8, Obi.
I was actually going to bring that up too, because he's one of those types that not everyone in this world has a firepower. So Captain Obi is absolutely one of those people that just stands out with being not a pyrokinetic, but talk to us about him. What you got?
Definitely. So he doesn't have any powers like the other generations, but he also is the captain of this. And he's the captain for a reason too. He's just so strong. He just works out, and he has the personality and mentality of captain as well. He's overall just a good guy. But his thing is he just trains his body every day. He's like, I'm just gonna beat you guys up. I don't care if you have powers or not. I'm just gonna gear up in my normal firefighter armor kind of gear he has on.
Oh yeah, but he's he dons it's almost like a night suit with a giant like a giant riot shield.
Definitely.
And like you said, he doesn't have any powers, so he he can be physically affected by these flames, but he just trains to endure them through this armor and through training, which is great. Also, because you mentioned his training, that he brings a lot of the levity to the show. Also, is one of the funny characters where he's always in like some weird upside down pose, balancing like a million things on his hands and his head at the same time, being like, "You guys need to train more. I'm doing training." Blah, blah. Oh, he's hilarious. I love him.
Yeah, he's absolutely one of my top 5 favorite characters for sure. And not only like can he stand up with a lot of pyrokinetics, he's fought other captains before, and he, as the only captain in the entire Fire Force that doesn't have powers, he holds his own. And that's saying something. But he definitely gets a boost later on when another one of my favorite characters joins the team, Vulcan.
Oh, yeah.
Vulcan is absolutely one of my favorite characters. Another guy who just doesn't have powers, but he is one of the world's greatest mechanics and mechanical minds, and he comes up with some of the coolest contraptions and support items for the team, because Company 8's not a big team. Like a lot of other companies who have like hundreds of firefighters joining them. Company 8's got like 10 people at most by the end of the show, but they're all incredibly powerful.
Isn't Company 8 one of the newest company too?
Yes. It was. There's a flashback episode where it kind of explains where the company came from, and I guess it's very. I don't understand how companies become a thing, because that's how Company 7 even was a thing, because they are a. They take place. I guess their village, Asakusa, is in kind of like away from the Empire a little bit. So there's not a whole lot of Fire Force regiments nearby to help out with their Infernal. So they usually handle themselves. But that's how they initially came to be a part of the Fire Force. Is there was a demon level Infernal there, and they were able to stop it, but because they didn't have the Fire Force with them, they lost a lot of people. There was casualties, and they were approached and like, hey, be part of the Fire Force, become your own company. You get all the support, supplies, and resources you need, but you can still do your own thing. And that's what I really like about Company 7 too, is that they essentially, they're their own thing. They do things their own way. Benimaru doesn't care about the Empire or what they want. He just does his own thing.
No, can you tell me a little bit more about the Infernals and the demons? I guess like I've seen them, and I know that they have like, I don't know, they just go crazy when they when they become this Infernal. What happens to them? Like why is that?
Yeah, basically, so basically in this show, when they turn to Infernal, basically their bodies just kind of light up. They spontaneously combust, essentially, and sometimes they lose control and they just kind of wreak havoc through a city. But sometimes there have been cases where some of them have controlled themselves and they just kind of just hang out there. Essentially, they're no longer they're considered dead, essentially, from what in the anime.
They like completely lose their humanity and they just have this will to just destroy everything. But sometimes you do see like a bit of the old person's personality peeking through a little bit.
And that's the sad part.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it was really interesting. Now I gotta tell you about this anime. This is an amazingly well animated anime. If you've seen other shows akin to like Full Metal Alchemist, Blue Exorcist, you can absolutely expect that high level of shine and polish, especially with the things that I was really impressed with, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the whole firefighter theme personally. Their outfits rock. I love it. They have this really cool, like, when firefighters are going out in the dark, they have like the glowing like yellow or orange straps. In this case they have they're blue, so you can see them from a distance, and it just really contrasts nicely with all the flames and fire. And it's really bright, and it has this really cool glowing effect that nothing else in the show has, so it's very recognizable. I absolutely love it. Do you guys have any other things to go about over the show before we get into a little bit about the writer and illustrator? I'm
trying to think here. I don't want to talk about too many characters because I don't want to spoil anything for any of these viewers. Trust us, like the characters in this show are incredibly memorable. There's such a diverse cast, and there's going to be something here for everybody. There are certain characters I feel like that are going to appeal specifically more to certain people's tastes, others that will be the complete opposite. But overall, like it's it's got some of the best characters that I've seen in an anime in a long time.
It does have a really good variety, and because like there are some characters that only exist to be part of the religious aspect from the Holy Soul Temple. They don't necessarily have any powers, but they are on site specifically when they deal with an infernal. Mm-hmm. So that they can deliver the last rites to this infernal once it's defeated. So they'll step in and give that prayer, Latome.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of moments in the anime where they make it very human, you know, where they get called to take care of an infernal that poor thing. It's the mother of a daughter who lost her father the previous year due to spontaneous human combustion as well, and then unfortunately she also combusted, and now this young girl is an orphan at this point. She's lost both her parents to this, and she's freaking out. But it just shows like they. Sorry, it's so hard to think about all of this, but there's a really big human part of it where they show compassion to every single person, and that's what Captain Obi wanted, was to show everyone like, hey, we're gonna take care of your mother, please just he wants to make sure that she doesn't see any of their weapons going in, because she knows they're going in there to put down her mother. And they mention all the time that the people can feel, being burned alive while they're infernal, and that's incredibly horrible. Just imagine being trapped in your body, burning alive, and not having any control. And they mentioned several times in the show that infernals don't die of old age; they have to get put down, and so that's why the Fire Force tries as quick as they can to put them out of their misery and send them to the great beyond. That way they can rest in peace. And it gets dark, but there's a really nice human aspect to it.
Now, Phil, if I remember correctly, the only way you put down an inferno is to destroy its core, right? Is that
correct? It's like right where their heart should be, in the middle of their chest. There have been other infernals with like multiple cores, or one that's like hidden.
And is there a reason that happens for multiple cores, or is it just like it's a thing that happens with the transformation?
I think there's some different ones that evolve too. Like there's some infernals that are somewhat intelligent as well. Most of them are just usually kind of like dead and just kind of zombies, but there's some that have somewhat intelligence later on.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Awesome. Well, let's get right into a little bit about the creator of this series, Atsushi Okubo, the writer and illustrator. He was born September 20th, 1979 in Japan. There's not a whole lot of backstory I can get on this guy. I dug and could not get a ton of details. I wasn't able to get the location of a city. I know he was born in Japan.
Man likes his secrets.
Yeah. A lot of our information I did get from a few, mostly wiki articles and a couple Reddit articles, which were actually amazing, had some amazing insight into this. But Okubo was always described as not necessarily a great student. He was always more likely to be seen drawing than he would be seen learning. At the age of 20, after he finished his studies at a manga school, I wasn't able to get the name of that school either, and I was hoping that I'd find that through the research of the person he met while he was there, Rondo Ayamine. He is the artist of Get Backers. If you haven't checked out Get Backers, I read this back in high school. Really cool. For the time, it was like late 90s, early 2000s kind of style anime where it's about these two characters that now I don't 100% remember if they have powers necessarily, but they're more or less, I know that they're fighters, but what they do is like their whole thing is someone to be like, oh, this thing was taken from me, or oh, I lost this thing. They go and get it back, whatever it is, and sometimes it requires them to use violence. They're like the characters that look like they should be in their early 20s, but maybe they're teenagers in the show for some reason, but they're like the cool kids. Oh, I loved it. Get Backers was really cool. I remember I really dug that back then. But after that manga school where he met with Rondo Ayamine, he went on to become Ayamine's assistant for 2 years. After which he won an award at a competition for Square Enix's monthly Shonen Gangan magazine. That was with his first manga series called Biichi. Now, I had never heard of this before. So there is, Biichi's really short. I believe it was only, I think they said it was 4 volumes. I have a quote actually from Okubo saying, releasing my first series at Monthly Shonen Gangan was because Enix, now Square Enix, is closer to home. I brought my manuscript over to have them take a look at it, and I was very lucky to have it start serializing. Due to this company being responsible in producing Dragon Quest, I thought that a fantasy-themed series would be a good idea. And that was an interview actually with Okubo and Hiro Mashima, like you brought up earlier, the creator of Fairy Tail. This was roughly 6 years ago. This was a fan translation on a Reddit page in a magazine that I was not able to find the actual print of the magazine, but a quote or a comment on the post on this Reddit article thanks Miso Soup for the translation. So thank you, Miso Soup. Now,
Sounds delicious.
Ooh, right? Oh, I love some miso soup. Biichi was printed in the magazine from 2001 to 2002. It was really short. He was able to get it published in 4 volumes. The manga was licensed for distribution in North America by Yen Press, which released the series in English in 2008-2009. Now, Biichi is set in the world of Tokyo. The series focuses on humans known as Dokeshi, whose abilities are to use more than 50% of their brain power. This allows them to unleash special powers, provided they meet one unique condition each day. For the Dokeshi Shotaro, the main character, his condition requires that he do one good deed daily to gain the powers of any animal, but he has to bite its bones.
I don't like that.
Right? It almost like, it kind of gave me,
yeah, thanks. It makes my teeth hurt.
It gave me kind of like a little bit of like Shaman King sort of vibes with the art. But
another good one.
Yeah, it's another one where like his weird like ability for powers and superpowers really shows early in here. You haven't heard of Biichi before?
No, I haven't. So when you say bite his bones, do you mean like actual just the bare bones itself, or like just like if I bit your finger, like?
As far as I can tell, it is something that, I mean, the picture of the cover of the manga, he straight up just has bones hanging in his teeth, and like it looked like maybe he had like a necklace of various bones like around him, so like he could, as long as he did his good deed, he had his powers at his disposal, and he could just bite whichever one he needed at that time, like a shapeling or something. I don't know. I'll definitely have to look into this one a little bit more. Biichi. After Shotaro meets the traveler Mana, they begin a partnership of journey in the name of justice. This seems really interesting. That was found on Wikipedia.
Because he's done a lot of different mangas, but only got a couple that are like very well known. Obviously, Fire Force, Soul Eater. Apparently, there's a new one he's working on called Soul World.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
I actually have a quote saying that this might have been his last. He was like, I'm done. So that's interesting. I did not know that.
At least from the last chapter that I read of Fire Force, one of the last things he says in the last chapter is, look forward to my next work, Soul World. So maybe he is taking a break for a while before he works on Soul World, but...
Yeah, maybe. I'll get to that quote in a little bit later in the episode. That's awesome. I did not know that. I hope he keeps going. But yeah, like you brought up with Soul Eater, or Soru Ita is another one that is a great segue from Fire Force. If you haven't seen it, or if you don't know what the link here is, that I can say they are directly related. There are some hints towards the end of season 2, and I guess there is more of a, if you want to plug your ears, for this tiny bit of a spoiler. Not that it necessarily ruins anything, but if you're going to plug your ears, do it in 3, 2, 1. Fire Force is confirmed to be directly tied to the world of Soul Eater through a couple reoccurring characters or items that show up in one that transfer over into the next.
Yes, there are a lot of connections. We don't need to go too far into it because obviously it's a huge reveal.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, the internet has come out and said it. Like, it's hard to avoid things on the internet. There is a connection, and that's something that Okubo has, I guess, done. And there's another series that he worked on. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but apparently it is rather recent as well. That deals with there's an overarching theme in all of his like 3 most popular manga. You know, Soul Eater, Fire Force, and this other one, which I apologize, I cannot remember what it's called. But apparently the theme of madness is a thing with all of his work.
Oh, okay.
And some people are even trying to say this third manga could even be related to Fire Force and Soul Eater as well, because of the reoccurring themes and designs, items, stuff like that. Which, who knows? He just might like certain shapes. He might like certain items in there. You know, keep them guessing. But yeah, it's. And when you think about it, talking back to his monomania, you know, his obsession with like focusing on one thing in particular. That's kind of what Soul Eater is too, because the whole world of Soul Eater is just, you know, death, souls, stuff like that. Fire Force, fire, the sun, and like you can kind of tell like it's his work when you just, you know, watch a couple episodes. Like, oh, yep, it's a Kubo.
Yep. Yeah. So, Soul Eater or Soru Ita is set at the Death Weapon Meister Academy.
Yeah.
The series revolves around 3 teams, each consisting of a weapon meister. They at least have one weapon that can transform into a humanoid, trying to make the latter, the humanoid, become what is called a death scythe, and thus be fit for use by the Academy's headmaster Shinigami, who is the personification of death. They must collect the souls of 99 evil humans and 1 witch, in that order. If they do not get 99 souls and then the witch soul, they actually have to start entirely over again, which is what I believe, I haven't seen in a while, but that is how the show starts, I believe, with Soul Eater. The intro here, they're like about to do it. They go to claim the witch's soul, and it turns out that she wasn't a witch like they thought it was. Oh man, it just turned out to be one of those big booby anime ladies in the tub, and they're like, that's her, the witch. And after they like go to confront her, she's like, I'm not a witch. And they realize they done goofed, and they have to start the whole thing over. Oh, it was great. I loved that show. I don't want to necessarily go a ton into Soul Eater. We can use that for a later episode.
Oh yeah, 100%. We're going to do an episode on that, because there's a lot of talk about, especially since the manga went on for a lot farther than the anime, because the anime didn't really support the anime, and so the anime ended fairly quickly after season 2, when the manga went on a lot longer.
Yes.
But Fire Force. Is there anything more about the author that?
Oh yeah, I've got a ton here.
Oh boy,
you don't even know. But yeah, Soul Eater. Let's see. Soul Eater was then serialized into Square Enix's monthly Shonen magazine and ran from May of 2004 to August 2013. Soul Eater was also turned into a 51 episode long series produced by 51 episodes was not enough. Like I could watch that series over and over, and I have.
Same.
It was turned into a 51 episode long series produced by Bones Inc. and aired from April 2008 to March 2009. Bones Inc. is also known for many other amazing series like Wolf's Rain, Angelic Layer, Ouran High School Host Club, both adaptations of Full Metal Alchemist and My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I did not know that.
Yeah, they do some big shit. I love Bones Inc. and I got to know a little bit more. I'm sure they'll come up a little bit more as we look into more anime too.
Oh yeah.
Soul Eater also spawned multiple video games like Soul Eater Monotone Princess, Medusa's Plot, Battle Resonance, Soul Eater Cross Soul Eater Not, which is another series that we'll get into in a little bit. Soul Eater Not, or Soru Ita Nato, or Noto? Yeah, Soru Ito Noto. I can't pronounce that. That was a 5-volume spin-off series. Again, another really short one that takes place before the events of Soul Eater, and that ran from September 2011 to December 2014. In 2015, Okubo began his work on Fire Force, and it was published in Weekly Shonen Magazine, which made it his very first weekly manga he has done. But in May of 2020, Okubo stated that Fire Force will be his final manga. To quote him in this Reddit interview that I found, to me, my creation process already has deep roots within my psyche, and if I were to create another series, I'll probably be needing the strength of the Fire Brigade to fly further. And I know he's done a lot of work And it's interesting the way he's progressed. He went from, like monthly to monthly, and now doing like this weekly and these really big magazine publications over in Japan. Is amazing. A Fire Force was then adapted into an anime television series by Studio David Production, located in Nishi, Tokyo, Japan. Was directed by Yuki Yase, and scripts were handled by Gakuto Haijima, Hideki Yuki Morioka did the character designs, and Kenichiro Suihiro composed the music for the series, and that's something that I really want to get into. Like, I know my music taste, and Phil's music taste, and Aiden's music taste, and there are some amazing English jams in here, as well as some amazing, well composed, just the more traditional anime style intro, outro music that you're used to. But what I do want to play for you is just a few seconds of my favorite intro, the second opening theme, which is called Mayday by Cold Rain, featuring Rio from Crystal Lake. Oh man, this song is a bop. Absolutely. Oh my god.
Yeah, that gave me a lot of
goosebumps.
Like Death Note, when they did like that really like big like heavy rock banger of an intro.
Yes.
That it reminded me of that. But I love this. Immediately when I heard this song, I had to look up who sang it, and it's been on my playlist ever since. And it's a banger.
It is so good. The first opening theme in season one called Inferno by Miss Green Apple. The second intro, which we just heard, Mayday by Cold Rain. The anime itself aired from July to December in 2019 on MBS, or the Mainichi Broadcasting System, and it also aired on TBS, the Tokyo Broadcasting System. Now get this, I don't know if you guys read or looked into this at all. Before the third episode of season 1, an arson attack hit the Kyoto Animation Studio 1, where this was located at. This was a big deal. This fire killed 36 people and injured 34 others.
Jesus.
It was huge. It's still one of like the worst considered like attacks that I don't know if it was on all of Japan, or at least all of Tokyo for sure. Here it is. The fire was said to be one of the deadliest massacres in Japan since World War II. The attack also destroyed nearly everything inside Studio One, so they scrambled and had to release episode 3. It was like 2 or 3 weeks late, I believe. That was one of the only late episodes that they had, and they were able to continuously release from there. But man, I had no idea that this show that is about, the destruction of these infernal demons, but also like being able to control flames, was like struck down by fire.
Bad timing.
Isn't that why they postponed it for a while too? Just because of the fire themes.
Which, dang, I mean, most studios would have that happen to them and just be like, okay, we're done. Like, we're not going to continue this, but...
Right. Now, this did say it was Studio One, so I'm wondering if that meant they had other buildings that they could move into temporarily, but the fact that that killed and injured so many people, I had never heard of a fire dealing that much damage and destruction before. I don't know if the person was ever apprehended. I wasn't able to see that, but this was, in fact, an arson attack. So I don't know if it was a former employee or if it was more of a like a cultural thing, because I know that sometimes in Japan I don't know, there's a lot of ideals in Japan that I don't necessarily quite grasp because of the American culture. I don't quite understand it, but I know there are some dark things about people that think about anime in general, like the fact that it's seen over there largely, I think, as an art form, but some people think it's like bringing down their society. It's really interesting to read about, but is also a really big deal in terms of their ideology. after that or after, not necessarily the fire, but after that, season 2 was announced in December of 2019 and aired from July to December 2020. Season 2 was directed by Tatsuma Minamikawa. That's a long name. Tatsuma Minamikawa, who replaced Yuki Yase from season 1. It did not say why, but I did look up a little bit about Yuki Yase, and it looked like he did a lot of other work on around that, like a year after the season 2 of Fire Force aired. It looked like he did a lot of work for Fate Stay Night. So I'm wondering if he was a little busy with something else really big on the table. That's another series we will more than likely absolutely get to at some point in this podcast.
That would explain a bit why there was a bit of a difference in overall like vibe between seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely a bit darker, different animation style. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Dang. And I know they did announce season 3. Season 3 is happening.
Yes.
But obviously with everything going on in the world, production for a lot of things is taking a lot longer than normal. I'm really hoping season 3 will kind of round out the whole show and go on to the end of the manga, because I would really like to see what happens at the end of the manga animated as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That would just be ideal, but I'd rather them take their time, make it good, and just bring us a absolute banger of a finale.
Oh yeah, I absolutely expect it to. And now you can read the manga now wherever it's available legally. I cannot give you any illegal sources. I know some people have already read all of this manga, so they do know at least how it ends, or the ties, again, to Soul Eater and how all that goes. Have either of you read? You haven't read the manga yet?
I have not. No.
I have read. See, here's the thing. I'm more of an anime watcher when it comes to this show, but when, of course, the internet decided to say, "Oh, hey, there is a connection between Fire Force and Soul Eater," of course, I'm curious. I'm like, I have to know what's going on here. And then when I found out, I'm like, well, now I have to read the manga. And I read probably the last 5 chapters of the manga and skipped like a good couple chapters.
Skimmed a bit just
to see it. And I'm like, okay, now I want to go back and actually like read the manga from where season 2 leaves off. But part of me is also wanting to save it and just watch the anime. So I'm not too surprised. I'm not too surprised by watching the anime after reading the manga, because typically I like to be surprised. But there are some series that I think are way better in manga form than they are in anime, and I don't know. I feel like Fire Force is one of those that I prefer to watch because of the flashiness of the fighting and the animation style, specifically Shinra's fighting style and the way he fights. It just translates better to animation than it does to manga.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I know you mentioned earlier the series Death Note. Over there on my shelf lies the entire series of Death Note, which I will now. To give you a little bit about myself, I'm more newer to the entirety of anime than I would say these two are. Phil and Aiden are much more versed in the ways of anime.
Phil has elder weebs.
Phil has the uncanny ability to recall any and every character name, power, and ability from almost anything you can ask. If he knows about it, he knows everything. And so I'm over here going the fire guy with he does the thing,
and I'll be able to bring that, like, oh, that's his name, this is what he does, that's his powers called. It's weird. Like, my memory is overall terrible, but I can remember these anime facts.
No, we used to.
I hate it.
That would actually be a great one to do. We used to have Geek Out. You remember that? It was,
yeah.
Oh man, it was Geek Out was this game where you would draw cards randomly, but you would and like in a circle places, so the card that you drew would ask like a general question about something really nerdy, and everybody could, like, the question might be name 5 characters from a specific series, or name 5 characters that have a certain power. But if you think you can name at least 5, somebody else can try to one-up you and maybe do, I bet I could name 10, or I bet I could name 15, and you'll go around the room, and the person that settles on the highest number, they have to live up to that expectation. Phil got up to what? It was like 50 or 60.
Yep. All I did, I remember that one. It was about
all Bleach.
Yeah,
every single one.
The question was, name like how many characters can you name that are dead? And I'm like, I got this. I know a whole show of dead people.
Oh man.
And I know they were trying to say that's not fair. I'm like, hey, it's an anime.
Yeah.
It's about characters that are literally soul reapers. They are dead.
They are.
So guess
He's
what?
right.
They count.
Oh man, yeah, he was able to every single he did it.
So what I think what my secret is that when I'm bored, which is a lot of the time, I will go on to some of my favorite animes Wikipedia, the fandom Wikipedias, which are a culmination of the fans essentially adding information to a particular show, character, and I will just skim and read articles about some of my favorite characters, and that just, for some reason, that just sticks in my mind. Don't ask me to do taxes or to essentially know how to functionally adult, but you want to know something crazy about Dragon Ball or Naruto or Fire Force, I got you.
Oh yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, he is definitely my anime guy. When I need to know a detail, I ask him. Now the other thing that's interesting is Aiden has he's been the guy that has like shown me all of the like. I'll be like, okay, I need something new to watch, and he's like, ooh, here's like 30 that I've never heard of before. And I'm like, where do you find all of these? And I have watched many of them. The last one I finished up, Violet Evergarden, might be our next episode. I do have a couple others in mind, but man, I loved Violet Evergarden. That was such a good recommendation, a great slice of life anime if you're looking for something that is absolutely gonna rip the tears from your eyes uncontrollably. It is so sad, but it is beautifully animated with some amazing characters and story. Phenomenal.
Yeah,
So,
everyone.
real quick. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go on, man.
Speaking of Violet Evergarden, I just connected the dots. There's a fire that happened to that studio too, and they're the same studio. I just realized.
Oh no!
Yeah, I just realized that's the same studio.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
No way.
They're connected in a
That-
terrible way.
That could be, yeah, that'd be really interesting. So yeah, maybe we'll have to dig into that one a little bit later.
But with I was going to mention like with all three of us, I feel like all three of us have a different like particular type of anime or manga that we enjoy more so than others. I'm more of like action, over the top stuff, but I like a little bit of like dark. What's the term?
Gritty?
It's like dark
Gritty, like
fantasy
crime,
kinda, yeah.
like crime dramas, like Psycho-Pass. I love that. Aiden, what would you say your favorite, your preferred type of anime is?
It's really
Be
up
honest
there.
here.
It's like so my spectrum is just kind of wide. I wouldn't say that. I really like some just like good slice of life. It's like not like just the casual ones, but like the ones that would like can rip your heart out, like the ones that make you feel. Then I also really like some like funny comedy, ichi ones like High School DxD. That's
I love
a
it.
classic. That's great.
Nobody you talk shit about High School DxD.
it's
You
not
can
necessarily
meet
my
me out back.
personal style, but I have seen it. We watched this when
Yeah.
we were roommates, and
Yeah.
that's a great anime. It has some amazing
actually has good
like
plot,
scenes.
like-
Yeah.
Well, I was going to take away some of the quote unquote plot. It's got a really good premise, like demons and dragons and shit. That's awesome.
Demons
It's
and
amazing. Like, I
dragons.
love it.
Yeah, High School DxD, dragons and demons. There you go.
Oh man, like
Nothing else revolving D's.
absolutely not. No,
No, not at all.
Nothing in High School DxD about that. I'm kind of all over the map, but I'd say more of my more favorite anime that I've been into have been a lot of the sports slice of life. I love Haikyuu, Kuroko's Basketball. I love the older ones like Ice Shield 21. I also love Initial D was one of the ones that got me into manga, just anime in general. I am not a car guy.
No.
You ask me anything about a car and I'm like, it's got wheels that go vroom. And that is about the most that I can tell you. But man, Initial D is so good at like just creating these dramatic, it's almost like a fight between these car drivers as they're, going down through, I think it was like Mount Akia, that like most of that takes place on. And it's just nuts how they dramatize or dramatize how that whole event with these cars, and like the cars and like will have special moves like, oh, he dug his front right wheel into the ditch to give him more grip around that curve, and everyone's like, oh, how did he do that?
Only
And
a Japanese manga could make something so mundane as like cars,
Right.
like so cool.
Well, it's the same thing with all of the sports anime. Like,
Fair.
if you're watching Haikyuu, now what's interesting is so like they treat these like mundane, just abilities, like somebody playing volleyball, can do a spike shot or something, but they turn that into almost more of a power. So when they go to use this, it has a bunch of dramatic effect, and he's going to use his special move that he's been working on all week. But in reality, maybe it's just a certain sidestep or a certain new way he developed to try like jumping, so he gets more height. But it's great, and I love the aspect of slice of life sports, especially where it is very much so about teamwork and building each other up into being better people and being your better self and bringing out the best in others, also to have that drive. And I love slice of life anime for that. My favorite manga series, 20th Century Boys. I'm not gonna say a lick about it. It's a clean manga. Like there's nothing like dirty or raunchy in it. Nothing like that. If you haven't, seriously, if you haven't read 20th Century Boys, it is a wild ride. I had a friend show me this back in high school, and I was hooked. He may or may not have given me a flash drive with all of the manga just on it.
Flash drives.
Maybe I sat at my computer for like 50 hours a week reading this whole thing. It's only like 22 volumes. There it sits on my shelf. The only other manga series I own, if that tells you anything about how much I love that and Death Note. Now, what's cool is I vividly remember when I saw Death Note. We were at a local like used bookstore up here, Half Price Books.
Yeah.
And I was just browsing like the idea of manga, and I was like, I remember I saw this book. They had volume 1 of Death Note. I was like, ooh, this looks scary. Is this any good? And I had a friend who was like, yeah, that was pretty good. I was like, cool. That's when I like first started reading manga. It was like with Death Note. Oh man,
that's definitely gonna be.
That is one that if you watch the show or read the manga, they are so closely like done, like and translated, like from one to the other, that you could do either one, and you'd be right on the money. You're not missing out on anything there.
That's gonna be an episode for sure.
Oh, absolutely, in the future. That's one
I got
of my
some
favorite
things to say about that. But Fire Force, our first episode today. But one thing. What I want to ask you guys, you talked about slice of life, the sports manga, building up a team. One of the biggest things in this show is the bonds between Company 8, and like I said, this company is very different. They're not like huge, like they don't have like legions of people. There's just a handful, maybe at most 10 by the end of the show. And so it really explores the bonds and the friendship between them, and that they will go to bat for each other. They will be there for each other. Anyone who's in Company 8, they've got their backs, and I love the dynamic in this show. We already talked about Captain Obi, who is the top of Company 8, who doesn't have powers. He's the only person besides Vulcan, in Company 8 without powers. His Lieutenant Hinawa. I love him as a character. He's not one of my favorites, but like I love his overall style. When you look at him, he's got like this wide-eyed stare. Like the man doesn't look like he blinks. He also has this terrible fashion sense. He wears like hats all the time, would say really weird things that the other members of Company 8 will give him, and he just wears. He's like, yeah, it's a hat, whatever. He's the one with the ability to control bullets through the gunpowder. Beyond that, you have the engineer Vulcan. You have the scientist Victor Leaked, who is quite the character.
Oh yeah,
sus. Sus.
Highly sus.
Oh yeah, I mean he even comes out and says that like he's a suspicious dude, but like he's there because he wants to know the truth. He wants to. He's a scientist. He wants to know the answer to everything. Then you have the first class fire soldier Maki.
Yep, Maki.
She is the essentially the trainer. She helps train the new recruits, and she is regarded as a incredibly muscular built but beautiful woman. And she is a second generation with the ability to control fire, which she has these little fireballs, sputter and flare. They look like something came out of. Oh my God! Why can't I think of this right now? the guy who did My Neighbor Totoro. What was his name again?
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. Yeah, I could not think of the name for a second. I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, they look like something out of a Miyazaki film, and she just controls them. But she can like lay down a guy with a single punch. She is built, but she's very self-conscious about her frame too. And then you have the new recruits. You have Shinra. You have Arthur. Arthur thinks he is a knight at the Round Table. He constantly wields his sword Excalibur, which we talked about earlier. He's the guy with the plasma sword, essentially. And then we have, obviously Tamaki, who is a recruit from a transfer from Company 1 to Company 8, and she has fire cat powers. She creates tails, her cat ears, and claws and stuff all out of fire. Oh, and she's the plot of the anime. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
She has a ability called the Lucky Lecherler, what she calls it, where she accidentally falls out of her clothes
Constantly.
And it's weird. Like, a lot of people say they hate this show because of her, but of course Akubo was like, gotta throw something in there.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you do bring up her, because the guy's name who did Fairy Tail, Hiro Mashima, during that interview, there was a part where they were asking, if you could bring like one character out of your anime and put it into Fairy Tail, what would it be? And his immediately was Tamaki. He's like, I would absolutely put Tamaki into Fairy Tail, because he's like, I remember he said something along the lines of, I just really like cute girls, and I think this one is done really well. And it's, but
we know Fairy Tail's author. Like, he loves his cute girls. Like, you could throw a stick into his manga and hit somebody who's a cute girl.
Man.
But and then the final character, Sister Iris, who essentially is the nun of the Fire Force. She's the one that's always there, delivering the prayer, allowing them to, because they will not take care of an infernal without praying for it.
Prayer, yeah.
Yes, exactly, because they want to make sure that they are given a better opportunity to pass on peacefully, right. And that's, to them, is the best way to do it. But like this whole team, I love it. The whole team is absolutely phenomenal together. They all like have each other's back. They're very caring, especially like Lieutenant Hinawa. He's very like we said, he's a very kind of an odd character, very silent, but like he will go to bat for any of his people, and I love it. The whole company is just fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Aiden, do you have any last remarks about Fire Force before we get into... now, I know you prepared something for us, and I have not a clue exactly as to what it is, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Now, this is obviously episode 1 of our new podcast, hence the technical difficulty. Sorry, I apologize. It will be better next time. My computer will not go to sleep.
We're learning.
Right. However, I don't know if Aiden is going to do this every time. Aiden, what do you have for us today?
Well, actually, first I'll start off here with this. So we were talking about a lot of positives about the show. Is there anything about the show you guys did not like that you would not like? Would kind of want to warn people?
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but
I would say, at least in terms, because I know how I felt about it when I started watching it. I did not like the concept, just the overall. For me, it felt a little, I don't want to say a little basic, if you will, where it's like, we're the Fire Force. We fight fire demons with fire. I'm like, okay. But it is like, and on the surface level, it really wasn't that impressive to me. But once it gets into the actual characters and the backgrounds and how they interact, that is where the real moneymaker is for this show, especially episode 1. The first episode, I will say, in my opinion, is one of the weakest anime introductions to either a new anime or a new character, where he's just, my name is Shinra Kusakabe, and I'm going to be a member of Fire Force. Look, there they are, over there on the train station where I was just about to go. There they are in action, fighting a demon. This is a chance to prove my power to them, even though they don't know who I am. And it just wasn't like... I don't know. I felt like it could have been segued a little. Like if they did segue a little nicer into it with a little bit more length, like maybe even give him a full episode of, maybe more so his immediate background, like what he was doing right up to, like maybe putting in the application to joining the Fire Force, something like that, to give it a little build up rather than just jump right in. That was a little. It was a little hard for me to get into.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, for me, like, I can't really think of a whole lot. Power scaling is a little odd in it. You know, I'm not going to go into very specifics of it because I don't want anybody getting spoiled. But at first, I also didn't like. I thought it was weird how he fought. We never even talked about how Shinra fights. He shoots fire out of his feet.
Yes.
And he essentially. All of his attacks are essentially kicks, explosions, stuff like that generate out of his feet. He can fly, he can go incredibly fast, but mostly, all of his fights, all of his fighting style is just attacking with his feet. Yeah. And I thought that was super weird at first.
Now that has a name for it too. He's like called like the devil.
He's called the Devil's Footprint because of his. Obviously, he shoots fire out of his feet. He leaves black footprints, which look like, you know, the devil is walking among. And then he's called that because he also has that nervous tick where he smiles uncontrollably when he's nervous. And people think that he's actually a terrible person because of that. But in reality, it's just a nervous tick.
Yeah, no, when you say like his smile, I mean, it is like
it's very demonic.
Yeah, like a 10-inch wide smile, and his teeth are jagged, like they almost look like they're metal spikes almost. And yeah, he's always doing it, so it's constantly getting him into trouble. Like, what's so funny? And he's like, nothing, but he just looks like he's grinning ear to ear with this shit-eating grin on his face.
Another reason I love Obi, because he laughed at that. You know, he thought it was funny. But I can't really say there's anything really bad about it. I just wish, like, Season 2 was a little dragged on a little bit, but
yeah, I do think so. But it's necessary information.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
For me, I feel like a lot of things were very predictable for me in the show, so I was like, oh yeah, that happened. So that's a big thing for me. I was like, yeah,
things happen because of plot reasons.
Yep. And then I feel like a lot of things were kind of forced to, like with the fan service with Tamaki. That was so forced with all her stuff, and then it's like just some of the stuff like that. But then it's not too bad overall. I like the show a lot. So I do have this D20 here for the boys. Have you guys roll this D20 real quick and just tell me what number you guys get.
Ooh, okay. All right. What number am I going to get?
So you got a 10.
Okay.
Go ahead, Phil.
Oh, man. Okay. Come on. Give me something not 10.
20.
Nice. Double.
Okay. So with the dice here, I have... I'll roll
Nat 20.
Hit 8. Okay. So I have here written down like basically what powers you would get or what generation you get. So you got 8, right?
I had 10.
Oh, 10. So you'd be a second gen, okay?
Okay.
And Phil, you'd be a hybrid, and I believe I would be a second gen as well. So with that, how do you guys use your abilities then? Like since we know what generations.
Now remind me again because my brain is terrible.
Second generation means that you can manipulate existing fire, but you cannot create your own. So most second gens have to produce their own fire in some way with like a lighter, or like, you know, Lieutenant Hiwa with his, you know, gunpowder. Basically every this will make it easier. Every cool power that you like, I'm pretty sure you like, is third gen.
Yeah, so. But I mean, now second gen powers are really where I would have the most fun, though. You do know me. I'm definitely like, I am one for fun. I mean, I would be the guy that's like, oh, nice candle you just lit. It would be a shame if someone were to just put it out.
Happy birthday to the
ground. Absolutely.
Ooh.
So Phil, my bad. You're actually a hybrid, right?
Okay, so I get
Nat 20's hybrid. Yeah. So you're basically like a Benimaru.
I love it. If I had to choose my own powers, I think would be really fun is obviously generating and manipulating flames to form weapons or a physical structure. I know there's a guy in the show that uses like ash for that, but that also just sounds really cool. Like I'd create fire armor, fire sword, shield, something like that with like a more physical presence.
Okay. Yeah.
But man, like I also just keep thinking of Benimaru's abilities, which are just straight up like fire punches and swipes. Right. Like that's just cool as hell. Because he's the only character in the show with dual generation power. So we only know like one person. Like we only have one person to look at as an example. But who knows what you could do with both powers?
Right, yeah, because some of the powers, like with the second gen, I know are powers specifically related to that, where they see another character that has this insane like level of firepower, and they use their powers defensively to either put a stop to the production of their flames, and like they basically can block them from using their attacks as like a last second thing. Like maybe that's what they use to lure them in close, like with someone who has a third gen power using a fire punch. They let them come in with that punch, but right as they're just about to come in, they just snap those flames out of existence. And the next thing they know, they're coming in with nothing, and now they're up close range with someone like Tamaki, who really is like a brawler, and she will mess you up if she gets close range. You are done. Awesome.
I'll let her put me to the ground.
What about you? You rolled an 8. What do you get?
I got second gen just like you. But sorry. Let's see here. Second gen. I don't know. I'd probably use like some kind of weapon to start igniting it. Like, unlike Arthur with his sword, where he actually makes his plasma, I'd get something like a staff, like a wooden staff at the ends of it, to have kind of greased up with like oil or something, so I can just like swipe it across the ground to ignite sparks or something, and then just turn to the ends, just like two fire like kind of.
Would you want to like manipulate the shape of those fires?
Yeah, I would kind of make it into like a spear, like a naginata kind of style.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be rad. Okay,
I can definitely see
I like that. Heck yeah.
Got anything else for me? Yeah, got anything else special for us?
Well, guys, I was just thinking about looking through like our overall, since we're talking about fire here. Just curious, who are you guys' top 5 favorite fire users of all anime?
Ooh. I don't know if I can like name off 5 off the top of my head. But one off the bat, right away, Escanor, 7 Deadly Sins. Literally throws suns.
Oh, I did not know he was fire. I thought he just got like his like.
Oh no, like straight up, he throws suns.
A little known character known as Roy Mustang. Anybody?
Ooh.
Oh man. Full Metal Alchemist, that show is my jam, and Roy Mustang is a badass in the anime and in the manga, even more so. Oh, he is ruthless. He uses a glove with he does have like a seal on the back of this glove, which is part of Full Metal Alchemist. You need to use like these seals of alchemy to produce the thing you're trying to produce, but that seal is what gives him the ability to create sparks of ignition, like when he snaps his fingers, if he doesn't have like a fire source, or if it's raining, he has that constant like source of that seal that he's able to generate these flames. He can use it manually. I know there was a scene where he like etches this symbol into the back of his hand, and he starts like using a lighter and snapping his fingers all violently to kill some dudes.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Goosebumps in that scene. What about you, Aiden?
I really think Itachi is probably one of the stronger ones.
I love Itachi.
Yeah. His fire jutsu, he just as I say.
Oh, he's so cool.
That's probably my favorite character in the entirety of Naruto.
Yeah, and definitely he's up there for mine. Him and Old Man Yamamoto.
I was actually going to say that. Yeah, he's another one. Like, you don't know much about his Bankai, though.
I don't know, but like...
Which is just flames made even hotter.
Right.
His flames, his sword literally generates such an intense hot flame, it's not visible. All you see is a smoking, smoldering sword.
Oh, no way.
And all it does, anything that comes into contact with it, at first they think, oh, it's just so hot, it burns away whatever it touches. No. His flame is so hot, whatever it touches is erased from existence.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's just one of his 4 Bankai powers, which are absolutely insane, which we could absolutely go into an episode of Bleach sometime, because that's one of my all-time favorite mangas.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with it coming back into an anime. They're animating the final arc in the manga this year, which is supposedly coming out next month, so I'm hoping that's still the case, but... Oh, man.
Hiei from Yu Yu
Yeah, I was going to
Hakusho.
say,
The fire demon child himself.
Dude.
Oh,
Dragon of the Darkness flame, man.
Who doesn't like Hiei? He's such a gritty badass. Oh, he's so cool. If you haven't seen Yu Yu Hakusho, do yourself a favor.
Oh, God. We're just thinking of so many great episodes for the future.
Absolutely. There's too many good ones. Endeavor. from My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
Like, he is like the number 2 hero compared to All Might, but man, he's got like
Hellflame is his power.
Yes, he is a strong dude and an amazing second in command to the all-time greatest heroes in My Hero.
Yep, and then we have Dobby, same show, but he's a villain. He got Blue Flame, and something about Blue Fire just
Blue
speaks
Exorcist.
better.
Yep.
Blue Exorcist too. Like,
Yep.
so many fire is just a great ability for so many.
It's so versatile, especially
right.
in anime, you know, when you get the ability to do whatever you want. It's a medium that very few other things actually get the chance to do, which is, you know, create a world that is really over the top and bizarre, and that it is believable in this art form.
I just thought of something because we were talking about like fire being versatile. There's a character in the show. I know we're getting pretty late here in the episode, but there's a character in Fire Force that, like we all said, every character in the show has some type of power regarding fire. This one straight up is very interesting. He absorbs flames, changes the flames into sound, and then changes that sound into ice.
Ooh, yep.
Yep, that guy, when he showed up, I was like, whoa, hold on a second now. Is there another power that we need to know about? Is there more fire users? Is there like different elemental powers? No, it's still an ability with fire. He just somehow converts fire to sound and then converts that to ice.
Yeah, I do remember hearing that, and I remember thinking, I was like, okay, I guess. But
Yeah, I don't understand how it works. There's some science involved with it, but also, yeah, great. Like I said, there's so many like amazing and very clever ways they use fire in this show, and there's still some you haven't even seen yet because I know that. So it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Aiden, do you have anything else for us before we do our closing segments here?
No, I think I am all good here on mine end.
Awesome. Well, hey, that was an amazing first episode. I'm so excited we were able to finally do this. This has been months in the making, just a lot of research and hardware, and obviously we are still a very new show, so please bear with us as we attempt to ascend into the podcasting kingdom as the anime kings of historical podcasts. Absolutely thank everybody so much for listening to this episode, especially if you made it all the way through. I could not be any happier than I am to actually have gotten this thing recorded and have it turn out the way that it did. I'm so excited to get onto our next episode, whatever that episode will be. We're going to try to release an episode every other Wednesday. And that is going to start hopefully this first upcoming Wednesday by the time you're listening to it on March 23rd of 2022. I could not be any happier.
Right, like doing this with two of my best friends, you know, a bunch of anime geeks.
Right.
You know, this is fun. You know, just to geek out about different anime is just couldn't be happier.
Who doesn't love a good a chance to nerd out with some dudes, and not necessarily just dudes but dudettes too. I mean, there's a bunch of anime loving girls too. We're all inclusive, man.
Yeah.
It's all good, baby.
Yeah, and hopefully you learned something interesting about Fire Force, you know, and some other anime that you may not have heard about that we talked about today. And hopefully you give Fire Force a chance, like Brent, who couldn't get past it because of firefighters.
Well, I'm glad I got past it. Hey, thank you so much again for listening. I want to give a huge thank you to Schminkadelic for the use of our intro and outro to this show. You can find them on Apple Music and Spotify. Until the next time you hear from us, stay zen.